Okay, we will get started. I am Cheryl Thompson, the Senior Technology Consultant for Ingram Micro, along with my counterpart, Mark Miller. We are your technology consultants for IBM Systems and Services. And today we have a session that is going to give you all the highlights and hints and tips on IBM's Cloud Solutions. But before we get started, I'm going to turn it over to Mark so he can give you guys a heads up on this new credit memo giveaway.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. We're proud to announce a giveaway with today's session. It's a $500 credit memo, and very important to point out, you must be present to win. So if you're able to stick around to the very end, we're going to do a nice spinny wheel and award whoever is still currently present at the end a $500 credit memo. So be sure to stick around for that. And Cheryl, back to you.
Awesome. So today we have 5 speakers and we are going to get them all in within our time frame here because they are all awesome speakers and I'm sure they'll stick to the time. But starting us out, we're going to have Ray Z with IBM, is actually Ray Zwack, if I get that right, and Joe Lafredo with Ingram Micro. Go ahead, Ray.
No, I was going to say that's pretty close. It's Ray Zwack or Zwack, however you want to say it.
We're going to call him Ray Z for short. And then we have Joe Lafredo, who is our Ingram Micro Technology Consultant for Cloud, and he will be doing a demo in IBM Cloud Solutions. And then Jordan Freeman, who will give us a highlight. He's with IBM. He will give us a highlight of the IBM Cloud promotions. And then Jose Rodriguez, which you guys are very familiar with. He's our technical advocate for IBM, and he's going to give us some use cases on COS, Cloud Object Storage. And then our anchor bringing up the rear, Jim Smith with IBM, another technical advocate for Ingram Micro who works for IBM. He's going to tell us about Power VS. And so with that, I'll turn it over to you, Ray.
Well, thanks, Cheryl. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. My name is Ray Zwack. I'm part of the IBM Cloud Platform or Public Cloud Platform channel team. I have the pleasure to work with Ingram to help them get partners excited and enabled around IBM Cloud Platform and the virtue of selling subscriptions for that to your customers. I've been with IBM for going on 24 years now, and I started my career as an IBM client rep where I had responsibility to sell all things IBM Cloud. And we learned early on from some interesting characters, like one in particular who came up with an acronym, SOSWAS, sell our stuff with our stuff. That really is the value of IBM Cloud, right? Our ability to sell solutions across the different brands. And as a client rep, that was what I was geared to do. I did all of my business with business partners. So for as long as I've been around, it's been with our business partners. And recently, IBM made the decision to eliminate the client rep position for the majority of our accounts. So the way I look at it is our business partners have the opportunity to fill that role. You guys can be the IBM client reps. You can bring in the different brand specialists for the different parts of the solution, and we can work together to bring a ton of value to our customers. So what we're going to hear today is a couple of the different things that we can do. Joe's going to talk to you about how easy it is to provision the different resources, over 200 different services available in our cloud. Then we'll dig into some really hot offerings, Cloud Object Storage and Power VS. And I'd like you to look at it from a perspective of if you're a partner currently selling things to customers on-prem, you have the ability to sell fries with a shake, right? You can sell our stuff with our stuff. You can suggest that if a customer is buying a Power solution on-prem, there may be value to doing test dev in the IBM Cloud. There might be value to backing up to the IBM Cloud or coming up with a disaster recovery solution. And again, as now the IBM client rep, the business partner that offers relevant solutions across the board, I think it's a perfect opportunity for everyone that's involved. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Mr. Joe Lafredo, and he can show you what the Cloud Console looks like and how easy and cool it can be.
Cool. Oh, thanks, Ray. Appreciate it. Let me just get set up here for a moment, and we'll get going. There we go. All right, so this is the IBM Cloud Console. This is where customers provision infrastructure. Okay, and as a partner, first thing you'll do is you'll create a quote, and we'll talk about how some of that goes based on an estimate. And when customer buys IBM Cloud, what they're getting is a bunch of cloud credits. And so we'll take a look at where those go. So first thing I'll show you in the console is the fact that you can have multiple accounts. You see I have multiples here for different purposes, and I hit a pull down, I'm going to change the account I'm looking at. Dashboard gives me some things about resources, a bunch of stuff on top to learn about, things about support. So this is the front page, but when the customer buys those credits, they're getting a code. And so how do they turn that on? How do they get these credits to be turned on inside IBM Cloud? Very simple. All you have to do is go to Manage, Accounts, and then Account Settings. So right here, that's where the customer is going to apply the code, and that's going to turn on the credits that they purchased. And so the credits can be used anywhere inside of IBM Cloud, which is really cool. But let's make sure that those are there. After I say apply code, I would come back in to be sure that they're there by going to Manage, Billing and Usage, and going under Payments. Payments are going to show in arrears, so it's always a month behind. And you'll see all your numbers and everything that you want to see in here. So for example, it's going to take a minute to go ahead. Now I can see credits that I have, invoices I've got, the whole story. I can also set up notifications in here. Okay, under spending notifications. If I want to be notified when my spend goes above X, I can make multiple notifications for that. So back to billing and usage. Okay, again, as I mentioned, all your numbers are here. Notice support plan right here. Okay, there's my account type, but here's support plan. And this is basic. And so what basic is IBM's, we'll get you support, no problem. We'll get to you as soon as we can. And that's included by default. So no extra charge for that. However, that doesn't cut it for a lot of customers, because there are customers out there that need to have faster response. Okay, I want to be less than an hour, I can purchase advanced support. Okay, if I want to be less than 15 minutes, I can go to premium support. Okay, so these are all options that you can sell the customer. Everybody wins. Customer gets better service and support, and you have an additional sale. So definitely something that you want to recommend. We typically put it on every quote that we put together as an option for you, but that's something to be aware of. So definitely a good thing to have. Where the rubber meets the road is back in the catalog. And let's see, it's going to take a minute to. There we go. The catalog is where all those credits can be used for all kinds of things. This is what Ray was talking about with a couple hundred products. And we have a lot of different things in here. One I'll show you momentarily. Power VS. Okay, we're going to talk about this later today, but we have that in here as well. Right, so that's how we can configure it up. Also, that's obviously Jim's, but I just want to show you that that's in the catalog. Yeah, we're being a little sluggish today, folks, so just hang in there for a minute. But what I want to show is storage. We go under storage here. There's block storage, file storage. IBM Cloud Backup is considered storage as well here. And it's also cloud object storage. There we go, object storage. Okay, all of the items that you can configure have these two tabs, create and about. The about tabs are actually really useful. They tell you some really good stuff about them. Here, we just want to go in and create, and we have a couple options. There's a light plan that's already there, and that gives you 25 gig per month free. And then there's standard. And so before I get there, let's see, I have two deployment options here. IBM Cloud, which is, as you'd expect, in the cloud, but also IBM Cloud Satellite. What that does is gives you the ability to use other environments in IBM Cloud. So for example, I go here, I create a location. I can now use servers that are living on-prem, in AWS, in Azure, or Google Cloud. And I can have them participate in IBM Cloud, in this case for cloud storage. Okay, just some cool things to have. Let's see if I can go back. There we go. So just some options there. I'll stick to IBM Cloud. When you go to create under standard, you'll see this. I like to go here first to show the storage classes that we have. And this is a nice description to show the tiers. Standard tier is data you expect to be used most of the time, pretty frequently. If it's less active once a month, you might want to put it into vault storage, or cold vault if it's going to be accessed only a few times a year. And on top of that, there's smart tier, which says, hey, put your storage in, put your data in, and it'll figure out what's going to land in these other three categories. And of course, the pricing to go along with it. Okay, we can choose different regions, multiple, 3 regions, 1 region within a single location. All good stuff. So that's how we put together some of that. Let's go back here. Stick to IBM Cloud. If I were making an estimate, because I was putting this together for a customer, I want to say, well, let's see how much it's going to cost, list price. I say estimate costs, regions, storage class. Let's say that I want to put in 10 terabytes. How much of that do I want to egress? Maybe all of it. That might be a bit much, but storage classes are for puts and gets. What I've been told from some of the storage folks is that this is fairly detailed stuff, and usually what you do is you just add a percentage on top of your estimate. I'll make mine look like the free tier, just for sake of argument. And I'm going to say calculate cost. So here I have a cost number of $1,200 a month. We take this number, we multiply that by 12, then we do discounting on it, and that's how you get your quote. Part of my role is to help build some of these estimates and to work with IBM as needed to get them, but that's the gist of how this works.
Hey, Joe, I got a question.
Sure.
For our business partners, because I'm sorry if I missed this as I was putting together the giveaway wheel, but what essentially stops the clients from going to the site directly and putting in a credit card, and how do our partners get involved in that process, make sure that they're getting sales, they're adding value, et cetera?
I'm going to lean on Ray a little bit for this, so hopefully Ray can help me here. But what I would say is this: is that customer can go to the site and go create an account and put in stuff, and off you go, just as you described it. But what are they not getting? They're not getting a discount on subscriptions, and that's what us collectively as partners in Ingram can help offer. Okay. And that's a whole nother conversation that some folks that are on my team that are here on the call are more than happy to have that conversation, talk about how the margin works, because we're rich in the margin side.
And I'll add to that too. We have a lot of direct customers, and in the instance that we have direct customers and one of our Ingram partners has an existing relationship, and maybe that customer is buying power on-prem or storage on-prem, we'd love to have a discussion about that customer coming over to IBM Cloud and moving their direct account into a subscription account through that Ingram partner. And the way to do that is to be that IBM client rep and bring all of the people together, bring the power rep together with the cloud platform rep, and we'll help make those connections. But absolutely, it's the value of the partnership that the customer doesn't get when they go direct.
Thanks, Ray. Really appreciate it. Very cool. So that's what I wanted to show you by just looking around the console, give you a brief idea of what's there. So I kind of asked myself this question, which was, what would you want to know about IBM Cloud? What should you know about IBM Cloud? And I boil it down into a couple of different things. This first one here, our call is about storage, but security counts too. We have good security, very high standards that we meet. And also, we, as IBM, cannot see your data if it's encrypted with the hyperprotect crypto services that IBM offers. Cannot see it. Doesn't mean they can, but won't look. Very different, okay? Cannot see it. It's a cool story. Margins, we talked a little bit about this already. IBM Cloud has very good margins, very good margins. And like I said, my teammates can talk to the numbers on that, but I'll give you an example. I know of a customer who does consulting work, but doesn't sell the other cloud guys because they don't make enough money on it. They found out about IBM Cloud, and now we're having some real conversations around margin opportunity because they see the difference. Okay, some other things that are valuable. Okay, try it out. You can certainly try it out by just going to cloud.ibm.com, creating an account. You'll get a couple $100 worth of credit to use in the first 30 days. Plus, there's a lot of services that are free. So you can go in there, take a look at it, see what you think. Cost savings on data. When you have data inside IBM Cloud and you move it from place to place, you copy a bunch of stuff from one server to another who's in another data center, zero charge. The other guys don't say that, okay? Zero charge. Avoid some really high bills that some very famous companies have paid for that privilege to be able to move their data back and forth. IBM Cloud, no problem, no cost. Okay, and overages, if you go over a subscription, you charge at the same rate you were at, not a premium rate. Okay, also makes things different. And the last thing I want to leave you with is this. Talk to us. Reach out to us this way. This is the fastest way to get a hold of our team. IBM Cloud Sales at ingrammicro.com. Our team will answer whether it's a sales question or it's a tech question like I myself can answer. Doesn't matter, but we can have all this conversation to make all this work. And that's the bottom line. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing here. Let's see, there we go, stop share. And so that's what I have. It is now turn for Jordan to get going. So looks like Jose and Jordan off to go.
Thanks, Joe.
Sure.
So I'll do a quick introduction. I'm Jordan Friedman. I'm one of the product managers for Cloud Object Storage specifically. I'm going to take you guys a little bit through what Cloud Object Storage is. Joe demonstrated a little bit of what our UI looks like. I'll explain just sort of the offering overview in general, and some of the business challenges we're tackling with this offering. And then I'll pass it off to Jose, who'll get into some of the solutions we have today that can use Cloud Object Storage. So we can go to the next slide, Jose. So a few of the challenges that we tackle with the Cloud Object Storage solution, for those not familiar, it is a OpEx model. So you pay as you go and only for what you use. And it's a monthly charge. We target use cases, especially around increasing data sprawl, especially in on-prem data centers, as well as growth. So we have a number of clients who have said, they're reaching data center capacity. I think a lot of clients around like video or file sharing, and they want to leverage the cloud for expanded capacity and also to decrease their personnel charges for the management of that data. We also have customers coming to us to secure data, especially with the rise of ransomware attacks. Customers are looking to add an additional tier for backup targets. So they look at Cloud Object Storage as that new tier where they can protect the data and help with business recovery. And then finally, we have a lot of either cloud native applications or potentially use cases around data lake where customers are streaming or ingesting data to Cloud Object Storage and then using that data to train AI models, to do data analytics and other things like that. So go to the next slide here. These are a few of the use cases I touched on. Our big ones really are backup, archive, and content management. So we get a lot of potentially colder data that's being archived as a primary repository. And then we also have some big plays with content management. So any kind of customer that's building a content distribution network or managing really large video, film, images, and that runs across different industries. So you can think in healthcare, you're managing tons of MRIs or CT scans. In videography or filmography, you're producing tons of video that you need to edit down for final copies, or potentially like DVR or things like that, where you want to distribute many copies of data. And then finally, I mentioned things like IoT devices, modern applications, manufacturing, all of these are streaming data. They need to store that data for future analysis. So they use cloud object storage as sort of a data lake target for that. So go to the next slide here. This is a quick look at the regions that we have cloud object storage available. Joe showed this a little bit, but there's three kind of models. The first is the cross region. So this means if you upload a file to this endpoint, your data will automatically be stored in 3 different regions in a geographic location. So in the US, that might be San Jose, Dallas, and Washington, DC. And so you know your data is protected in the case of an outage in one of those cities. Then we have what's called a regional offering, and this is a little lower cost than the cross region, but still highly durable, and it will store your data in 3 different data centers within that specific region. So something like in Dallas, you store data across 3 different data centers that are separated by up to 100 miles or more in distance. And then finally, just in some geographic locations, we'll have a single site offering. So it's our lowest level of resiliency, but it has the most availability geographic spread. So we can get into different regions that have like data residency requirements. So we can go to the next slide here. This is a look at our different pricing tiers, which Joe mentioned a little bit about. We've got our smart tier. So this will optimize your costs if you do not know your workload type. So if it's like a hot or a cold, or it varies by month, we recommend using smart tier, which will optimize your costs. But if you do know your workload, we have a bunch of different tiers that target that data type. So standard is for more active data, whereas vault or cold vault is for more cold data, which means you're retrieving the data out of the IBM network much less frequently. And then finally, we actually have an offline tier that you can use called archive or accelerated archive. And this will take time to restore the data, but is our lowest cost option that some customers can use. For managing costs as well, we have a feature called expiration. So you can set expiration policies on your objects or files, and those will be automatically deleted after the specified time period or at a specific date in your expiration policy. And then we have additional features like quota. So you can, for your customers or specific lines of business in your customer, you can set quotas for the amount of storage they can use. And that helps. And we also have versioning. So you can enable versioning, which is more of a data protection feature. But if there's a modification to your object, it will automatically store the previous version, that unmodified version, in addition to the new version. So go to the next slide here. A lot of the objections we get around moving to cloud is around security. And Joe did a really good job of describing some of the security features we have, but specific to cloud object storage, we integrate with 2 IBM offerings, the IBM Key Protect, but then also IBM Cloud Hyper Protect crypto services. So, the keys are stored separate from the object storage, which makes it impossible for us to have any type of read level access to the customer data. And then, these are for Hyper Protect specifically, these are dedicated hardware security modules that are FIPS 140-2 level 4 certified. So really the highest level end of encryption, and you won't find that available in other competitive cloud offerings. Go to the next slide here. A couple other security features we offer for customers. Pretty common is access control. So we have specific identity and access management roles you can assign to different users on your accounts. And you can really create a good separation of duties. And you can assign bucket level permissions to those specific users. We also offer firewall capabilities, so you can essentially authorize or create an allow list that says only these IPs can access my object storage bucket. And those can be defined per bucket, or they can be defined based on a user as well. And then in addition to that, we have a couple services you can use to monitor your object storage, one called Activity Tracker, and then the other called Monitoring. And these help you look at potentially malicious or unauthorized use on your object storage, and will help you alert when there's suspicious activity there. Go to the next slide. And finally here, I just wanted to display this, but this is a look at some of the partners that are already tested and certified to work with object storage. So if you see any of these at your client, they can get started today using object storage as a tier or target for that data. So a ton of applications in Archive. We work with the leading backup and recovery software, so Spectrum Protect, Veeam, Commvault, Veritas, and then a whole set of other applications. So feel free to reference this. And if your clients are using any of these, they can get started today. And I think this is my last slide. I wasn't able to pull the most recent promo code slide. We were having some issues getting that, but I can say verbally, we do have 3 promos going on for Cloud Object Storage right now. A $1,500 credit that clients can use over 90 days. And that's available to anyone. And then we have some whitelisted options. So just talk to your sales contacts at IBM, and we can potentially whitelist opportunities for a $6,000 credit or a $15,000 credit. And all these are available today to use. So with that, if there's no questions specific to object storage, I'll hand it over to Jose, who's going to talk through some of the solutions we have with other IBM products and object storage.
Thanks, Jordan, and thanks, Joe, and thanks, Ray. So I'm going to talk about why are we talking about cloud when you guys are used to doing on-prem. I'm going to talk some about the use cases, how you can use the IBM Cloud to expand your opportunities. And honestly, even though you may not be selling maybe on-prem, you're still going to make some money with selling a cloud solution. And I'm going to talk about how you can do that. Well, first of all, Spectrum Virtualize has a capability of sending out clones and snaps out into the IBM Cloud using that cloud object storage instance that your customer just purchased. It's a great way for, let's say, a customer that doesn't have a second location and needs to have a virtual air-gapped copy of those volumes. You can use a cloud object storage instance running on IBM Cloud, and put those snaps and clones out there. And in an emergency, I'm kind of like a poor man's DR. You could always then, let's say you lose your on-prem instance, you could always use those instances, bring up another Spectrum Virtualize, or even within IBM, you can actually start an instance of Spectrum Virtualize in the IBM Cloud. You can bring up those volumes there. You can bring up servers there of your critical applications and get them up and running. And what are you're actually selling Spectrum Virtualize licensing. And that's money in your pocket. That, along with the cloud object storage and whatever cloud services you're selling, you're making money on that. So that's one of the use cases, one of the ways you can make money. For those who have mainframes or very large instances, transparent cloud tiering, the TCT, the same thing that Virtualize uses. The DS8000 series has that capability, and again, you can use IBM Cloud Object Storage for that as the tier of storage where you put that data. If you have customers that have Spectrum Scale, or if you're looking at selling Spectrum Scale for data and AI, or collaboration, or for whatever that solution that you're architecting together, Scale also has the capability of using cloud object storage. It's using that transparent cloud tiering mechanism, where again you can tier off data. Let's say older data, or maybe data that's not being used very frequently, or because you've got policy sets that set that any of your clients or any of your users puts out an MP4 and you don't want it on your primary storage, automatically set it out out into the cloud. That capability is there. And again, you're selling additional licensing for that capacity through scale. By the way, IBM Cloud also has the capability of having a scale instance running in the cloud. So if you're setting up scale with AFM, where you have multiple data centers closer to your users, this is a way of being able to have a scale instance without having a data center closer to your users, right? And these are all licensing that you are selling to your customer, where you're making money. Now, because scale is part of Spectrum Archive, where we're making tapes look like a USB drive, you can add that capability to a Spectrum Archive solution. You're architecting the solution. You can basically say, well, if you want a third copy out instead of on tape, you want it out into a different data center, you can use TCT from scale and move the copies out there again. Again, licensing. You're selling licensing. You're making money on the licensing on there.
Where do you go?
Pardon me? Question? Spectrum Protect also has the capability of putting some of its data, tiering it off into the cloud, the IBM Cloud and Cloud Object Storage. So if you've got backups that you're keeping for, in the health industry, the life of the patient +7, you have to keep those records around. More than likely, you're not going to go to an MRI or to an X-ray from 10 or 12 or 15 years ago. Maybe you want to put it out in the cloud. In the cloud, it's still available in case you need it, but you're not going to frequently be using that. So maybe you can tier it off, even from your backups. And so Spectrum Protect has the capability. And by the way, Spectrum Protect Plus, I believe, also has that capability, where you can actually move copies of your data out into the cloud. That's all I have. Any questions? Don't see anything on the chat. Okay. With that, I am going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Jim Smith so he can talk about power.
And let me come off mute. So let me share my desktop. And when we got together, planning the call, we're going to, let's have our March call, talk about IBM Cloud. There'll be 5 speakers. We each get about 15 minutes, 10 minutes. I decided, well, I'll bring a 72-page slide deck to a gun to the knife fight. And why would you do that, Jim? Well, the answer is, seismic. I don't know about you. I have a love-hate relationship with seismic. It's often, when I find what I need, it's terrific. But there's times when, for the life of me, I just can't find it. Power VS is one of those exceptions to the rule. Well, maybe that's not politically correct, but Power VS does an awesome job of helping us find what we need. So anytime we are out in seismic trying to find enablement, we look for the sales kit. So instead of shipping this deck off, to you folks to wander through, this is the Power Systems Virtual Server Sales Playbook. How do I get it? I go out to, Power VS Sales Kit, and then scroll down to the list of resources, and here will be the, sales playbook, 72 slide deck. What's awesome about this deck is a lot of work has gone into organizing it. So, as Jose said, tend to be infrastructure sellers. Cloud is certainly an important part and becoming more prominent in our environments. But if I'm an infrastructure guy and I need to know about Power VS, I've got a specific use case in mind I'm trying to solve. a particular problem for my customer, here I come to the table of contents, and I can quickly jump into where I need to go. What is Power Virtual Server? A way to sell, scale out, or scale up compute from either end of the spectrum, from a quarter of a core up to 143 cores. And that's unmatched capability. At the same time, we're in with IBM Cloud. We are co-located at a number of cloud centers. We'll talk about where in a minute. But no solution that I've sold yet for Power BS has been an island unto itself. There's always multi-platform capability as part of the solution. So it makes sense how we developed and are offering this solution. We're in 15 data centers in 7 countries. As we look through this deck, this is just a quick walking tour. When you have a Power BS need, you can jump into this sales handbook and find what you're looking for. Here's use cases, there's specific instances, and maybe I'll find one that looks like, my case. The value proposition. This is a very useful chart. Sometimes our speeds and feeds on our TCO comparison, competitive comparisons are a bit contrived. This one isn't. It stands on its own. When you look at the capability in Power BS, we're seeing SAP, Oracle, Epic is now up in pilot mode. We're using it as a DR location for Epic. And for smaller hospitals, we're beginning to actually run some production Epic. So, the connectivity that's available. When we look at multi-hybrid cloud, Power is unique in that we're the systems of record, just like Z. We provide the data for which the agile, rapid development platforms come for information. Look at the compliance capabilities we have. SOC 2 Type 2 is incredibly important for our financial customers, for the customers that tend to run big power. So the capability that we have is unique. There's ways to do opportunity identification, whether it's running those systems of record, big IBM I with DB2, big AIX with Oracle, and we can certainly run OpenShift. We tend to be part of an OpenShift ecosystem with a lot of the clusters running on Intel coming back to us for the data. But HCL Commerce is an example of the entire platform is running on OpenShift on Power. So there's various use cases. And a chart I love is the competitive landscape. There's Power available in Google Cloud, in Azure, but it's significantly less capable. So this is a great chart to either work with your customers or look at where is my competitive advantage of why I would want to instantiate some Power BS side by side with my other cloud resources. In particular, we're always using storage. So the interoperability for storage, the backbone transport of data between data centers at no cost, which we talked about, makes great sense. There's a lot of capability in Power BS. A couple of other charts of information, solution design guidelines. So what are the kinds of things that we're looking for? And we have Power direct connection using VPN, and we have VPN as a service. Migration capabilities if we're trying to move to a new version of a operating system. In particular, a lot of mom and pop shops won't want to incur costs for side-by-side environments. We can instantiate in the cloud, develop the methodology, and then do a production cutover. So cloud could be part of the migration capability, even though the entire solution stays on-prem before and after. So there's a number of scenarios that make good sense. Here is the roadmap of what's happening with Power BS. So we're bringing Power 10 to scale out E1080s this quarter to a number of data centers in the US. We are bringing the scale out Power 10 as it's announced later this half. Will be showing up in Power VS shortly thereafter. So on the roadmap. We have a number of enhancements. There was but challenges in doing the connectivity between Classic Cloud and IBM Power VS. Used to be tickets that would have to open to get connectivity between the colo facility and cloud. All of that has been replaced with both command line and GUI capability, with more coming. In addition, VPN as a service and virtual tape library, two new offerings that provide significant capability when the solution wasn't large enough to instantiate dedicated VPN or VTL facilities. So the roadmap is here on what's happened and what's planned to happen. There's a interesting dedicated option. So this feels a lot more like on-prem cloud. It's Power VS dedicated for unique situations, particularly large customers who just, for whatever reasons, security and compliance particularly, aren't interested in hosting in the cloud. We can put the solution on-prem. So some great capability. There's some interesting pricing opportunities and discounting available. So discounting up to 45%. These are significant numbers. I'm a technical guy, so I tend not to look at costs and discounts, but it's certainly important to all of us. For a 1-year commit, 30%, 3-year commit, 45%, significant. So that is the value of selling through our partners. There are external references, which are always hard to come by. There's, compensation attributes, what happens. There's, actions to be called, but in particular, where to find help. Here is, a number of links. Once you get this deck from Seismic, the links to everything else. And, particularly important that often overlooked is lab services. Hallmark of lab services is their ability to bring both partners and customers up to speed on new technologies and do the skills transfer so that things don't take long, that critical capabilities don't get missed. So lab services has a significant Power VS and IBM Cloud capability to assist your customers and even your own services staff, for those partners that have them, in implementing the new technology. So in summary, I think, this is kind of a teaching how to fish instead of fishing for, the virtual server sales playbook from Seismic, from the virtual sales kit, is your one-stop shopping of, hey, I think I have something that could be Power VS. Let me see what's there, jump up, take a look at the table of contents, and take a look, see what's here, and in the context to reach out and talk with both the cloud team at Ingram as well as this backing up IBM team. We're happy to jump in and assist any way we can. So I think that's what I wanted to say. And with that, I'll hand back over to Mark.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. And Mark is going to do our winners to find out who just won the $500 credit memo. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can ask those questions now. We have all the people, all the parties involved on the call. They would love to be able to address your questions today.
Thanks, Cheryl. I was apparently talking to myself. I bought a new headset. It's got physical mute on the headset, and I was still muted in Zoom. So anybody have any questions while I finish setting up the wheel here? Let me go ahead and share. Let's see.
So Mark, this is Ray. It's not a question, but a comment. And I think it's awesome that we have all this content available for our partners to be able to learn more about what we have to offer. But I spend a lot of time helping to make connections between IBMers and our partners. And one of the things I think is really important is for IBM to recognize incumbency in accounts. So we have many partners that have worked really hard, sold to customers for many, many years, these on-prem solutions. And I'd like to recognize that. I'd like to be able to have those partners work with our cloud platform reps to uncover where there's opportunity. And you guys don't need to know it all right up front. These cloud platform reps are very good about doing overviews, uncovering where there's opportunity, and then we can bring in technical people to help develop the solution, come up with what's known as the anticipated MRR, and then working with Ingram, we can get those subscription offers or quotes out available to you and your customers. So you're not alone is what I'm trying to say. We're a lot of resources available to help.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ray. And we like to use these webinars not as a deep technical or even technical sales, but kind of as a launching point to where you can come back to us, get in contact with IBM. You know, we'll set you up with all of the right resources that Ray is talking about, and we go from there. So we like to use this as a platform for that.
Oh.
So if you have anything, you get in contact with Cheryl or I, and we'll start that conversation.
Also listed in the chat, Roger mentioned, of course, all this information, especially for Power VS, is located in Seismic, and I know our partners are very familiar with it. But another good point he made that Seismic itself is running on IBM Cloud. So we just wanted to make sure you all knew that information. The other thing I would like to mention is that this is a collaboration with IBM Systems and IBM Cloud team. It's not just the IBM Cloud team that's on this call, it's not just IBM Systems, but we understand that most of your clients that's going to the cloud, they're going to have some type of hybrid model. And we want to make sure that you take advantage of IBM's cloud versus that opportunity going over to Google or Azure. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks. We'll pull up the wheel. Everybody can see it, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and click it, and whoever it lands on, I'll check the participants list. You better be here.
Wait, Mark, this is Ray. I don't see my name on there.
And Joe Tabone.
Night.
Yay! Congratulations, Joe.
Thank you.
You're here, Joe?
Cool.
Yeah, there you go. I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, congratulations. We'll be in touch after the show,
Okay.
and we'll supply you with that. Congratulations.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you to our business partners for attending, and we will have this information in the replay and also the presentations listed on our YouTube channel, and we'll get that information out to you. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on our next session, which is March the 16th, and it will be on business continuity and disaster recovery. Have a great day.